Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Ultimate Facebook Ads Workshop, hosted by WordStream and Reveal Mobile. Excited to have everyone here. I wanted to first introduce myself. My name is Natalie Livingston, and I am a senior customer success specialist at WordStream. Kind of a few fun facts about myself. I've been at WordStream for about 3 years now, and I'm a huge dog lover, specifically Golden Doodles, big fan. And then as well as I am a volleyball player. And now my co-host Dan will be introducing himself.
Thanks, Natalie. I had no idea. We should have talked about this in advance.
We
I have a
should have.
I have a Labradoodle, and you've got a Golden Doodle. Like, we should do a webinar a month.
I know. They can become best friends.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Hey, everybody, great to meet you all. Thanks so much for taking an hour out of your day to talk to Natalie and Natalie and me, sorry. I am the VP of Marketing at Reveal Mobile. I look after marketing with a small but mighty team, and we're all about data. So you can see on my slide here, we love metrics, we love where they come from, and we love what they tell us. And we're going to be talking a bit about that today. I also love tennis. We will not be talking about that today. And we will certainly not be talking about my three sons, I'll tell you that. So with that, let's actually get to the agenda, Natalie. You want to walk us through and tell us what we're going to talk about?
Yeah. So we have a packed agenda today. Kind of some bullet points here on what we're gonna discuss. So the biggest thing, and I'm sure some of you might be asking even yourself right now, why advertise on Facebook? So always want to start out with that question. We're going to do an overview of Facebook Ads Manager and some important pieces in there. The big portion of today is going to be about how to create a full funnel marketing strategy with Facebook and what that means. And then we're going to have some discussion about online and offline conversions. And then obviously, once you put that all together, you want to be able to know how to measure your results. So we're going to finish with that. And throughout today, we will be having a few little polls come through and pop quiz questions. We definitely want to make sure this is interactive. And then we will have questions at the end that Dan and I will be answering for you guys.
Right on. Perfect. That's the perfect segue, Natalie, to our first pop quiz question. So this is to get everybody thinking about social in general. Of course, this webinar is about Facebook, so that in no way is a leading question, but here it is. Which social channel is most heavily used by US marketers today? Just throw all of your answers into the questions box on GoToWebinar, and I'm going to walk through them really quickly and read them off, and let's see where the majority of you have guessed. So we got Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, they're rolling in. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Facebook. Okay, there seems to be a clear winner at this point, and I will break the suspense for you and tell you, actually eMarketer will tell you that by a large margin, Facebook, the red line at the top, is the most heavily used social media platform by US marketers. And you can see this data goes backwards to 2016. Of course, we're in 2020, in case you forgot. Sometimes I forget what year it is. Still, by a huge margin, Facebook is in the lead. Now, this does not account for TikTok. It does not account for, actually, Snapchat's in there. And even with those kind of up-and-comers, if you will, Facebook is still in the lead. And of course, Instagram is just part and parcel with Facebook in that regard. So clearly, that's what we're all about today. That's what we want to dig into today. So without further ado, let's jump into the big question: why Facebook?
Yeah, so why Facebook? And I think this is a question that a lot of my clients ask me, and so I wanted to answer that for you guys today. So I think there's 3 points to discuss when you think about why Facebook. Reach, return on ad spend, and then finding the right people at the right time. So in regards to reach, Facebook is everywhere and your customers are on it is kind of the one thing I always like to say. Because of the huge audience that is on Facebook, you have access to unlimited prospects, both close to you as well as far away. And the biggest point here is that 1.66 billion people use Facebook every day. And on average, people are going on Facebook for at least 2 hours and 24 minutes. Might be an increase nowadays due to the fact that we're all kind of at home. But the big point is that we're able to start building those relationships with audiences that really matter to your business. The second point is the return on ad spend side of things. And the point that Facebook advertising is a wise business investment and the cornerstone of your cross-platform strategy. And why I say that is because cross-platform advertisers often find a much lower CPA on Facebook than Google, and an average of 65% lower than Google search and 78% lower CPA than Google display. And along with lower CPA, Facebook ads can actually lead to a 34% increase on branded searches on Google. So when I am starting to discuss advertising on Facebook with my clients, I instantly get into the conversation too of making sure that they have a branded search ad on Google as well to kind of complement each other. And then the last point is right people at the right time. So more than any other channel, Facebook really empowers you to zero in on the unique audiences that resonate with what you have to offer. And you can use Facebook's massive insights on user data to find your ideal customer, not only focusing on maybe their past purchase behavior, but even their personal interests. And we'll get a lot more into audiences later in this webinar, but just wanted to bring that up. And with all of those audiences, you're really able to build a full funnel targeting strategy with all of your Facebook options. Another thing I wanted to get into was how Facebook has been doing during COVID. So as all of you guys know, COVID has brought really unprecedented traffic numbers to the platform, and we really haven't seen that go away. So you can see here in Q1, there was a big uptick in users in Facebook. In April, we hit an all-time high of 2.6 billion users. And research has also shown that 47% of customers have increased their usage of social media. And that's because, we're all stuck at home, specifically in the earlier months. We're social creatures. So if we can't interact with friends and family, we really take to social media to fill that void. And then another part of it too is although users did increase, advertiser revenue decreased. So data does show that we've seen about a 23% decrease in CPA. So that's even more of a reason to start advertising on Facebook now.
Right on, Natalie. So let's actually, with that backdrop, that's great data. I love to be able to provide some context for everyone on the webinar today. Let's get into sort of some of the nuts and bolts around the actual tool itself for managing your Facebook campaign. So if you think about Facebook Ad Manager, it's got some major components to it, right? It's sort of easiest to think about it to start at this kind of 10,000 foot level. So writ large, its major components really are audiences, ad sets, and ads. And it's really an all-in-one tool for creating ads, managing when and where they'll run, how well your campaigns, measuring how well your campaigns are performing. It's sort of your dashboard all around, right? So it's easiest to think about Facebook Ad Manager with these three parts. I'm going to break them down actually here in turn. Before we do that though, I've got a quick poll question for everybody. And this relates back to what Natalie was asking just a second ago around targeting on Facebook. When you think about detailed targeting criteria on Facebook, what criteria do you use most often to build audiences in Facebook? And I'm going to launch this poll so you guys can all take a second and provide your answers, and I'll share those once you're done voting. All right, looks like the votes are pouring in here. That's great. There's a couple of winners. Let's give everyone a chance here. Take another second, and you can select any number of these, one or more of these answers, by the way. All right, looks like we've leveled out here. Let me close the poll and share the results. All right, it looks like the clear winners are interest and location, obviously here, 63 and 62% respectively. And then to a lesser extent, gender, job title, and then GoToWebinar unfortunately only offers 5 answer options, which is why everything else is tucked into other criteria. But it's clear to see here that everyone has a strong affinity for both interests and location. So with that, let me go ahead and jump into just right to the chase and talk for a second about what we think of as Facebook Ad Manager's most valuable feature when it comes to audience building, and that is custom audiences. So clearly you can build audiences on the back of Facebook data naturally, but there are really 3 kinds, if you think about it, 3 kinds of audiences you can build inside of Facebook. Core audiences, custom audiences, which is what we're going to talk about here on this slide, and then lookalike audiences, which are really a derivative of custom audiences. So to create a core audience, you just choose criteria, which among sort of what you guys just answered in the poll, you know, interests, behaviors, that type of thing, and your ad will appear to people who match those criteria. Naturally, that makes total sense. But a custom audience is really a lot more targeted. Think about it as a way to get a lot more value or a lot more return on the investment, because it's based on your data. Actually, that's you know, first-party data to your own business. And this audience type lets you have really the most control over who sees your ads on Facebook. And if you're not using custom audiences today, frankly, it's really the time to start. And let me kind of talk you through how to do it. It's the fastest way to get an ROI on Facebook. So to set this up, you can create custom audiences using several different types of data your organization already has. And you can see on the slide here, I've got kind of the most useful data types that you can upload into Facebook to generate a custom audience. And those are, frankly, in order of sort of targetedness, or in order of, you know, specificity. Mobile ad ID, which denotes location. And it was great to see so many of you already using location in that regard. Email address, phone number, company, and job title. So as you go down that list, it becomes sort of the aperture sort of opens wider and wider, and you're going to include more and more audiences. And while big audiences are good, they may not always be in market, right? So think about that relative to your goals. So after creating the custom audience with this data, you can build a lookalike audience, right? And this is where Facebook uses the data that you've supplied in your custom audience and then goes and finds people who look like that or who are similar to that in the platform. And it's a great way to extend your reach in a really cost-effective way, because you're finding people on Facebook who are not in your data set, but who look just like the people in your data set. So it's a really good tactic to deploy when you need bigger audiences for larger scale campaigns. And as I mentioned, with, you know, company and job title, conversion rates may go down, but awareness definitely goes up. So great way to think about using custom audiences. So jumping forward to ad sets. Ad sets are really a way to think about a container, right? It's like a container for different ads. And they can be made up of one or several ads in your campaign. And at this level, at the ad set level, you're determining how your ad will run. That includes things like budget, timing, audience, who you're targeting to. And we're going to talk more about the structure of your Facebook account here in a minute, including your ad sets, when we actually get into the full funnel strategy, which Natalie's going to cover. And then let's talk for just really quickly about ads, right? This is where the rubber meets the road. This is what you're running. This is where all your creative lives. Image, videos, text, calls to action, all of the above, right? This is what people are responding to, and frankly, what you're A/B testing all the time to make sure you have a winner. Frankly, you can see in the slide here a couple of examples where it looks like there's 2 of everything or 2 of most things. Those are just A/B tests for the exact same offer with maybe a different banner or a different headline or a different CTA. And we really do recommend you run A/B tests in every ad or every ad set, so that you can see which performs better, and then always be increasing your KPIs relative to the highest performers. So with that, let's jump over to the full funnel marketing strategy. Natalie?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Dan. And thank you for kind of laying out the most important parts and pieces that I would say when looking at Facebook Ads Manager. So yeah, the first thing I wanted to start out with, so it's a 6-step process of really understanding your marketing funnel. The first step is really knowing and understanding what a marketing funnel is. And this is actually a little nifty graph that WordStream likes to use a lot, this ice cream cone here, to talk about the marketing funnel. So the marketing funnel is the path that users take during their journey with you. And it's important to recognize and understand what your marketing funnel looks like to really optimize your cross-funnel strategy. And during this process, you really want to ask yourself, there's multiple questions you can ask yourself, but some of them might look like, what are the milestones in your prospect's journey, such as like website visits or form fills? What can you pair with those milestones? And that's going off of what offerings you can offer within your ads. Maybe how long it takes for the prospects to travel from the top of funnel down to the bottom of the funnel. So it's really important for you to have those conversations to figure out, where you want to start and how you want to organize this funnel. What I wanted to start with was the top of funnel. So the top of funnel, and that's the top of the ice cream cone here, is really to get people interested in you and build brand awareness about your product or service. The big thing here is just really trying to entice the user. The middle of the funnel, so that's getting into the cone here, is all about nurturing the users who have already taken a bite of the ice cream cone and have shown some interest. And then the bottom of the funnel is trying to close them. So these are focused on a lot more of your conversion campaign objectives and trying to get them to actually convert on your site. So, and then once you convert, that's when you've gotten all the way to the bottom of the cone and everyone is happy. So that's step number 1, really understanding your funnel here. The next part of it is structuring your Facebook ad account and what that structure looks like. So the way you structure your account can really make or break your ability to effectively manage the account and optimize your campaigns to your business goals. So the first big thing to focus on is your campaign. You want to have a clear understanding of your marketing goals at the campaign level to build the foundation for everything that falls under it. And the big thing here is you choosing your advertising objective and then also your budget. As you guys might have heard, the budget is now set at the campaign level, and then you can control based on spend limit at the ad set level, but just wanted to make sure everyone is aware that that's now at the campaign level. And then when you get down to the ad set level, similar to Google, we can apply many of the best practices of ad groups to ad sets in Facebook. So your ad set should really be thematic, and it should have more than one ad per ad set as well. I typically recommend my clients doing 3 ads per ad set, and really testing out different ads and messages and images to try and speak to the audience that you are targeting at the ad set level. The other thing too that I'll say about the ad set is that if you're choosing to use a remarketing audience or a lookalike audience or interest targeting, those should all be separate ad sets or even separate campaigns based on your marketing funnel. But it's really important that you don't overlap audiences because you want to speak to them differently within the ads itself. So a couple things to think about in regards to ad structure is campaign structure, is to think about each stage of your marketing funnel. So as you can see in this graph idea here, campaign 1 might be your top of funnel, campaign 2, middle of funnel, and then campaign 3, bottom of the funnel. From there, your ad sets, you should be testing out different offerings. You should also be testing out different audiences too within the ad set. And then lastly, with those that falling under the ad set, and based on the audiences that you choose, you should be testing out different ads. You should be testing out image ads, you should do carousels, videos, really testing out a lot of different ad copy to see what resonates with those different audiences better. The third part of the marketing funnel is, and I would say this is the most important one, is setting your objective based on your marketing funnel. So there are 3 main, and the first thing is that it's most crucial decision you will make when creating your campaign is choosing this campaign objective. What this is doing is telling Facebook what your goal is and what you want the algorithm to accomplish for you. And as you can see here, there'll be 3 objectives options that you will be able to choose from. Awareness being your top of funnel, your consideration being the middle of the funnel, and then conversion being the bottom of the funnel. After you choose that overarching objective, you then have a list of subcategories to choose from depending on that goal. So you can see that under awareness, you have brand awareness and reach, consideration, traffic to your website, engagement, app installs, video, lead gen, and messages. And then the conversion or bottom of the funnel should all be based on conversion. So conversions, catalog sales, if you're e-com client, store visits, if you're doing more offline conversions. So you're able to pick through these different subcategories. The next step of the marketing funnel is actually selecting your audience. And as Dan mentioned earlier, this can range from very broad to very specific, such as custom audiences. So you have your core audiences, which are going to be demographics, interests, behaviors, and then you have audiences that's all based off of your own data. So website visitors, custom audiences, lookalikes. And as your prospect moves from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, your targeting should be a lot more segmented and specific as they move down that funnel. As they do move down the funnel, it's important to note that it does narrow down. And one thing I do want to point out when it comes to lookalike audiences and where we have top of funnel where it says 5 to 7% range to middle of the funnel 1 to 4% range, what that means is the percent match for lookalike audience is based on 1 to 10%. So 1 is equaling the closest that Facebook will match your source audience to your source audience, and then 10 being the broader range. So that's why we have 5 to 7% range at that top of funnel, and then that 1 to 4 at the middle of the funnel, because that's getting more specific on who you're targeting. Another big piece here is that not only are you targeting different audiences, but you also need to make sure that you are excluding different audiences at the different funnel. So as prospects move from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, they aren't seeing ads from the previous stage that they are in. So if, for example, if you're targeting interests at that top of funnel, you should be excluding remarketing from there because we want them to move further and further down that funnel. So that is talking about selecting your audience. And the great thing in Facebook too is as you start picking different audiences, it will tell you whether that's super broad or super specific audience there. The next part of the marketing funnel is leveraging engagement audiences. So this might be a new one for a lot of people, but what engagement audiences are is it allows you to reach people who have previously interacted with your page. So these are custom audiences made up of people who have interacted with your content across Facebook. So that could mean people who have engaged with your videos or opened your lead form. And you can also use this as a source for a lookalike audience, which will let you find people who are similar to people who've already interacted with your Facebook content. And you might be asking, like, what's the difference between engagement audiences versus general custom audiences that Dan had talked about? And while both of them take actions in the account, those audiences, the engagement audiences use actions taken on Facebook's services and platforms, where custom audiences, are from your website and actions taken from there based on the pixel that you have on your site. So a couple ways that you can use these engagement audiences is, like, for example, campaign 1, using an awareness campaign objective in a broad audience targeting, you can then reach people with an engaging video. From there, you can then use a lead gen objective targeting people who have already engaged with that video in campaign 1 while promoting a piece of content through a lead gen ad. And then as we get them further down that funnel for campaign 3, we build out that conversion campaign to target the users who have already completed the lead ad and entice them to convert on a more product-centric offer to move them all the way down to the bottom of the funnel. And then the last big step of the marketing funnel are your optimized settings and your conversion events. So the conversion event is only applicable for your ad sets that fall under a conversion campaign. And this is because a conversion objective relies on the outside signals used by your pixel to fuel that optimization. So when it comes to your top of funnel column there, you don't need to set a conversion event as the algorithm is already able to deliver based on internal signals from Facebook. But for your middle of the funnel and bottom of funnel campaigns that are set to conversions, you will be asked to select a conversion event. And you really should be making sure that you select the appropriate conversion event based on your objective and your offer. So if you are promoting a white paper, for example, in the middle of the funnel campaign, you should select a conversion event that registers a successful download for that white paper on your site. And the other side of it, with the optimization for ad delivery setting, that is where you tell the algorithm what you see as a success for that ad set. So as we talked about throughout this webinar, your goals absolutely vary based on each funnel. So it's important to make sure that that's known within your optimization for ad delivery. So kind of going back to another example, if 2 advertisers' conversion objectives is to drive white paper downloads from their campaign, there's going to be different things that they should be actually choosing from in regards to that ad delivery setting. So I actually have a pop quiz that I want to ask you in regards to this. So 2 advertisers' campaign conversion objective is to drive white paper downloads. Advertiser 1 selects download conversion event, while advertiser 2 selects viewed landing page conversion event. Based on the campaign objective, which advertiser is going to get better conversions?
All right, Natalie, do you want to have folks just answer in the questions box and see what comes up?
Yeah, why don't everyone just answer in the questions?
All right, let's see. 1 is winning by a long shot. 2 is creeping up, actually.
Okay.
2, 1. There is 2 is definitely making a run for it here.
Okay.
It looks like on the whole, 1 has won by about 10 points.
Okay. And that is the correct answer. So for advertiser 1, the algorithm will look to deliver their ads to users that are likely to complete their download. Whereas for advertiser 2, the algorithm will optimize by delivering their ads to users likely to visit their landing page. So there's that huge gap between for advertiser 2 that they have that conversion objective, but they're really only wanting people to view the landing page. So there's that disconnect there. So that's why advertiser 1 is going to see better results, because they're optimizing for that actual download and conversion event on their site.
That's such an important nuance. I appreciate you getting down into that level of specificity, because this is often the difference between what is perceived as a successful campaign compared to a campaign that might be, you know, ditched or tweaked in some way. So yeah. Really great insight. Let me shift here away from, actually, not away, building on what Natalie just shared around the 6-step campaign process, and talk about how to optimize for both online and offline conversions. And this gets into a bit more of the technical side of Facebook, but since everyone on the webinar today is a specialist or an expert, this is definitely worth covering. So you obviously want to drive results on your ads. That's a given, right? And the results are going to vary depending on stage of the funnel, audience, campaign, all of the above. But regardless of what those objectives are, you want to measure your results. And that's where the Facebook tracking pixel comes in. So we've already got some questions coming in about the tracking pixel. So we're going to cover this in a little bit of detail, and we'll cover more in the Q&A section. By the way, that is a plug to get your questions in at any time. We'll be happy to answer those at the end of the webinar. So the tracking pixel is nothing more than a simple snippet of HTML. It's generated right from inside Facebook Business Manager. So it's inside the console you're using to run ads and manage your business account. And you're going to want to place this pixel on every single page of your website and use it to universally track conversions wherever your users may go. You want to make sure that you're using it to not just track conversions, but also for audience building, because Facebook uses that intelligence in sort of a bi-directional way. And then, of course, for tracking sales, depending on what kind of business you run or businesses you manage, you may want to use it to track sales as well. So once you have that Facebook pixel on all of your web pages, it's really easy to create conversion events using specific URLs. And again, in the Facebook Business Manager, this is where you go and select custom conversions. And you can see a simple 1, 2, 3 on your screen here. So select custom conversions, and then you'll select create custom conversion. And this is really where you're setting up your URL, your path logic, right? And the concept behind using URLs to track conversions works really well if individuals are taken to a confirmation page after completing the desired action. And you know, this is very much what the pop quiz covered a second ago. An example of this would be if someone filled out a form on your website and submitted it. When submitting the form, they'd be taken to a thank you page, or thanks for getting the white paper, thanks for getting the infographic, whatever the case might be. And for that specific conversion, you would place that thank you page URL as the custom URL, knowing that that's the destination you want your users to get to, and telling Facebook, in effect, that once the users reach that page, they have, in effect, converted. So once your custom conversions are created, and any number of those, of course, you can create, you can view their performance through the conversions dashboard, or actually directly in your campaigns inside of Facebook Ad Manager. And here's what that looks like on your screen here. You can also create conversion events for other actions actually on your website. The idea behind that is to see the impact of your paid ads and what happens on your site, right? So it's a more general view of overall performance. And this could be as simple as just a site visit. I came to your site, but it gives you increased visibility into how your ads are performing, and it gets a lot more. It puts a lot more juice, if you will, into the ad to get more benefit from the investment. So people might see your ads and not actually act on them, but ultimately later they'll search for you and visit your site. And setting up this kind of custom conversion allows you to see that and allows you to tie value of the visit back to the original ad. So with that, let's talk for a minute about offline results. And now, just to repeat, tying ad to online conversions and online purchases is pretty straightforward. We just talked through that. But if you're running a business or you're running campaigns that are designed to drive foot traffic and purchases at brick and mortar locations, how do you do that? Well, this is really where location data comes in. And a lot of you are, of course, already using this. And this goes into detail around how to use privacy compliant location data for attribution. And location data really is what drives the most reliable insights for foot traffic, tying online ad spend to offline or in-store visits. So with location data, you can create custom audiences made up of people who visit specific locations and serve ads to those people. You talked about doing that already, or you answered a poll question about doing that already. And these audiences are often made up of current customers, people who are already visiting your stores. It could be made up of people who are visiting your competitors' stores, right? Or it could be made up of people who are visiting other locations that maybe your brand or your company has an affinity with. And in your location-based marketing software, where you'll often build these audiences and measure that attribution, you can see what portion of your target audience showed up at the locations you're advertising and easily determine attribution. And depending on the tool you're using, and these charts here show you on the left, a retained conversion are people who were at your store prior to the campaign, who then came back during the campaign. The middle chart here, conquested conversion, shows people who were visiting your competitors' stores before the campaign, and then during your campaign actually converted over to your store. So this is basically how much have I grown my market share as a result of my campaign. And the third chart on your right is made up of people who visited neither your store nor your competitors, but who visited your store during the campaign, so who were influenced by it, sort of cold, if you will, out the gate. And depending on the tool you're using here, you know, your location-based marketing software can also show you more detailed reports, such as foot traffic by day and comparisons to your competitors' foot traffic. So you can actually make changes mid-flight. Often attribution is sort of a waiting game to figure out what happened after the campaign runs, and then you often have to wait a number of days to see what actually happened. With real-time or near real-time location data, you're able to see who's visiting your store locations or your brick and mortar locations, even while the campaign runs. So there's no need to wait until it ends. And you can, again, tweak your campaign mid-flight before the expense has run its course. So with that, we'd like to get a sense for what kind of conversion action everyone on the webinar today uses to optimize for most with your Facebook campaigns. And just to reiterate, I think I might have confused folks on the webinar earlier. We're using the polls functionality for this question, so don't answer this in the questions box. But let me go ahead and put a poll up for you so you can see what this question looks like and the answers provided. So go ahead and take a second and choose one of the following answers for the type of conversion action you optimize for most often on Facebook. Take a few more minutes here and see what we got. Give everyone a chance to vote. And I'll share the results. All right, looks like everyone's had a chance to vote. Let me close the poll and share those results. And this will give us a sense for what everyone's looking to drive here. So it looks like the vast majority of today's folks, today's webinar attendees are driving online site visits, which makes all the sense in the world. On top of that, we've got 23% who are actually driving online sales, which is great, especially with the holiday season nearly upon us. And then we've got a very small portion of folks on the phone today looking to drive, as we just covered, in-store foot traffic and then in-store purchases. And then, wow, we've got 11% who have a secret. That's
Ooh, I
interesting.
want to know the secret.
Yeah, right. Well, they're not going to tell us.
I
Apparently,
know,
now it's a
seriously.
secret, right?
Bummer.
Haven't you ever heard of a secret before? Okay. Well, with that, thanks everybody. Let's go ahead and jump into measuring your Facebook advertising results. And Natalie, I think you're gonna walk us through some really strong industry benchmarks here. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Super excited to do this. So, and these actually, so we try and come out with industry benchmarks for Facebook quite frequently and update them. So these are updated from this year. So obviously when you create your campaigns, the biggest thing at the end is, okay, is it working? Is it not? What should I be looking for? So highly recommend utilizing these industry benchmarks. One point I always like to make, and I say this with Google Ads itself, is that performance differs across all industries. So it's really important to understand where you fit in and really how to beat your competitors as far as numbers go. So we'll start with click-through rate. So on average, the click-through rate for Facebook is 0.89%. You can see here that cute dog photos are the staple of the internet, especially nowadays, getting us through COVID. So it's no surprise that pets and animals are earning the highest click-through rate with an average of 1.68%. Also, we can see that food and drink and beauty and fitness also have high click-through rates. And no surprise there, because we see a lot of influencers discussing these different industries. And so no stranger to Facebook and Instagram there. The one thing I want to point out for more of the lower funnel for click-through rate is jobs and education. So they struggle to really find engagement on Facebook with that 0.55% click-through rate, and then science advertisers as well at the lowest at 0.45% click-through rate. And one thing I would say here is, maybe Facebook is a little bit good for awareness, but I would push more of these audiences to go on more professional platforms like LinkedIn targeting or LinkedIn ads, and then also trying out LinkedIn targeting through Bing, which is actually a new feature. So more of those professional audiences, again, push them more towards those professional advertising options. And then in regards to click-through rate, the average click-through rate for Facebook is $1.68. And even though the big surprise here actually is that even though financial advertisers have the highest click-through rates on Facebook at $3.89, I actually view that as a huge win, because, and if there's any financial advertisers on here right now, that those are the most expensive keywords on Google, costing about $50 a click. So going on Facebook and seeing a $3.89 click is awesome. Other expensive industries on Facebook are internet and telecom, business and industrial as well. But those also have really high click-through rates on Google too. So, go on Facebook, because it's going to be a lot cheaper on Facebook than you'll see on Google there. And then the cheapest that we're seeing are ones that actually have the higher click-through rates. So food and drink, and then pets and animals. So, and that really just shows the value of focusing on creating really high click-through rate ads, getting something out there that's going to resonate with people. The other metrics we're going to get into are conversion rate and then the cost per action. So the conversion rate on Facebook is at 9.11%. And as we discussed earlier in my last slide, it's really hard to distract any potential job hunters from their social media feeds. But when done right, it can actually yield a very high conversion rate, converting about 1 out of 8 people that actually arrive on your site. And many other industries do convert more than 10% of their users who click on their ads, which is very promising. One thing I did want to point out though here is the exception to this trend, which is sponsored ads for news articles who get higher click-through rates, but not necessarily very good conversion rates. And that's because a lot of these advertisers are not necessarily looking to get users to convert immediately, but rather change their path to conversion or maybe take them offline to take action. So that's why we're seeing lower conversion rates there. And then I know the one that's the biggest for everyone, the cost per action. So the average CPA for Facebook is at $19.68. And there is a reason why small and medium-sized businesses are turning to Facebook, because they work. And the food and drink industry finds their next diners on Facebook at a low cost of $12.91, which is great. And that's particularly low for considering the fact that those are going to be high lifetime value people who are going to continue to come back to your restaurant. So you're willing to spend that amount. However, we're seeing though that advertisers with longer purchasing cycles like home and garden here, or even finance as well, may have those higher CPAs than other people within the industries here that we're showing. The home and garden is at $44, finance at $41. But given how long it might take people to actually come around to making that purchase, it's important to continue to advertise and get in the front of the minds of these people and making sure your brand is known as they continue to make that large purchase.
Awesome. Natalie, always so great to see benchmarks and where you can brag about doing great and killing it, and also where you can find opportunities to get better. And with that, let's transition over to questions, because I think, well, there's probably too many to get to in the next 12 minutes, but we want to get to as many as we can. So with that, by all means, please do enter questions into the questions box. If we don't get to them in the next several minutes, Natalie and I, or the team, will be happy to follow up directly with you to make sure you get the answers you need. So let me actually ask you this first one here, Natalie, in the box. How is the new iOS privacy filter going to affect the reach for Facebook ads? Do you have a perspective on that?
I do not. I saw that question come through, and I will have to get back to James on that. I will get back to you on that in regards to that question.
Yeah, and I don't. From a location standpoint, that's no worries, James. Or Natalie, for James's sake, I wanted to just offer from a location standpoint, for those of you who aren't familiar with iOS and the new 14 on your phone, if you're an Apple user, Apple is making it more consumer friendly, which is great for sharing location, actually for all kinds of data. So from a location data standpoint, our position here at Reveal Mobile is that location data is going to become a lot more valuable, in short, because the people who've opted in really want the convenience and the benefits of their phone knowing where they are. It's amazing how much we have come to take for granted on our phones, and location data is one of those things that people seem to really enjoy the convenience of. So there might be a dip in the short term in availability of location data, but those who've opted in are super in market and super down funnel. So you can consider location data becoming even more valuable in the short term. Next question is around Facebook pixels. If you use Facebook pixels, can you have more than one? Does WordStream have a perspective on that, Natalie?
You can have more than one, but I would say it's not necessary to have more than one Facebook pixel. I would say kind of what you discussed, Dan, earlier, is that the most important thing is making sure that you have your Facebook pixel that you do have set across every single landing page on your site, so that you can collect those audiences. But typically, yeah, just one Facebook pixel.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah.
The next question is around conversion campaign objectives and in-store visits. What's the main difference between store visits and conversion campaign objectives? How does Facebook track store visits? And actually, I'll take this one, Natalie. So
okay.
There actually is no difference between a campaign conversion objective and an in-store visit. Actually, a store visit would be one type of conversion campaign objective. So it's sort of like fruit and apples or fruit and oranges, right? And Facebook does not do a great job of tracking in-store visits because a lot of Facebook's location data is sort of derived from other signals. The reports we were showing you are actually Reveal Mobile visit local software showing you how to build custom audiences, use them based on their location, and advertise to them, and then see who comes back to your store inside of Visit Local. So you can very easily track campaign conversions for in-store visits and in-store purchases using the Visit Local product. Let's see, the next question is I find Facebook ads to be overwhelming. Don't worry, Allison, you're not alone. I tried to do a set a few months ago, though it worked, it never happened. I tried to change my personal account, not my work account, etc. So the question here is, I don't quite get Creator Studio. Is this where you need to run all your campaigns? You want to take that one, Natalie?
I'm not 100%. What is Creator Studio?
You know, that's not a term I'm super familiar with either.
Yeah.
Facebook Ads Manager would be the tool that we'd propose using. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what is Creator Studio, but yeah, backpacking off what you're saying, Dan, 100% Ads Manager is where you should be creating all of your campaigns and optimizing and analyzing your campaigns.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
Next question, what's the difference between using Ad Manager versus boosting ads on Facebook? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so I mean, so boosting, I'm sure they're referring to like boosting your top posts, so your organic posts that you have actually posted on your page. I would say, if I'm being honest, that's not really a true advertising on Facebook. Like, you're not choosing your audience, anything like that. You're just boosting a post that you had used in the past. Whereas the other ones, you're targeting an actual specific audience and getting people further down the funnel and all of that.
Okay. Next question actually goes back to the pop quiz. For tracking conversions, do you like pixel tracking a button, or do you add a custom conversion setup to track a thank you page URL? Which one does WordStream think is better for getting results?
Sorry, I'm reading the question now. To track conversions. So I think they're asking just like a button click versus an actual hitting a thank you page. Is that where you're reading as well?
You got it, yep.
So I recommend hitting thank you page, because if you're just tracking a button click, it's not necessarily that they're going to go to that next step and actually, fill out the form or whatever they want to do. Whereas if they hit that thank you page, then that means that they went through that whole process rather than just a button click.
Perfect. Next question, when we set up ads with the engagement objective and target by interest, it seems like the engagements we get on our posts are by users way outside of our target. Any suggestions? Katie, this is a common lament among organizations that advertise on Facebook. I know from firsthand experience, our team has had many a support call with Facebook ads on how to make sure targeting is as accurate as possible. And I would say the short answer is Facebook is your best bet, right? Definitely seek help from their team, but also be more targeted than you think you want to be. So it's not a super satisfying answer because you want to be, you want to have your goals aligned with what Facebook can do. But we found the best workaround for this is just to be a little more strict or a little more restrictive in terms of targeting and have less tolerance for a wider funnel. And your engagement should be more on target with your actual interest that you're targeting, because Facebook is a a many splendored thing, right? With lots of different if-thens.
And I would say something on that too, with specifically interest. Yeah, if you're seeing the engagement be way too broad, you can target by interest and behaviors, but you also can include a field where they also need to meet this requirement too. So that could even restrict it a little bit more. And then, yeah, as well as, location targeting, stuff like that. But I think using that interest targeting, and also they need to fit into this interest or behaviors, that would narrow it down even further as well.
This is a good one for WordStream, I think, Natalie. My client runs ads for lead gen. Which would be the bottom funnel goal? Other than view content, what would be a good mid-funnel conversion for a retargeting campaign?
Yeah, I'm reading that question. Sorry. Trying to find that question so I can.
It's essentially around, what's a good mid-funnel conversion goal for a retargeting campaign for folks who are already sort of engaged with the business.
Yeah, so I mean, in regards to remarketing, getting on your site, I mean, it depends. I would say too, it depends kind of how long that process really is. But for remarketing, like, those people might be ready to already, convert on your site. So whether that's a form fill, or if your e-com client, if they're ready to purchase, or whether that's a yeah, I would say, any type of like conversion action on your site, I would say actually hitting that conversion event, I think it's completely fine for any remarket audience, because they're already further down the funnel. So they've already shown interest again, and they might be ready to actually purchase or buy, or make that valuable action.
Yep. Okay, cool. Next question, I'll take this one. I've had a lot of clients express interest in geofencing. This question asker primarily worked with hotels and the travel industry.
Yeah.
At what point in the funnel do you find this a strong targeting method? I've been using it middle bottom, but would love your thoughts. So the short version of the answer is geofencing works at any stage of the funnel, frankly. It depends on what you're geofencing ultimately. If you're geofencing your own hotel properties, or in the case of your client's hotel properties, you've got your customer set right there, right? You can remarket to them all the time. You can build loyalty campaigns around them. You can build points around that engagement, very similarly to any loyalty campaign. You could also geofence specific resorts or specific tourist destinations that, of course, people would visit when they're also staying in a hotel. So if you wanted to hit top of funnel, potential hotel stayers, if you will, a great way to think about geofencing that way. So, and then similarly, you could run a geo-conquesting campaign, or basically, a market share growth campaign, which means you're geofencing competing hotel properties and saying, hey, stop staying at Hotel A, start staying at Hotel B for your next trip. So it's really not a function so much of funnel at this point, it's really about buyer motive. So geofencing is certainly a unique use case, and highly compelling in that regard, because you can be really specific with your audience and your message and your offer. So great to know that you're thinking about that. Next question, can you revisit the custom audiences? Can you also discuss how to access people who've already interacted with your content and how to target them? I could take this one briefly, Natalie, and feel free to add. So
Yeah.
custom audiences is a really valuable function in Facebook Ad Manager. It allows you to upload a CSV file of email addresses, phone numbers, job titles, mobile ad IDs, really many different types of data. And then what Facebook does is they look for everybody on their platform that matches those values, and they say, here's your audience. So effectively, you're accessing exactly who you want to access on Facebook, having given Facebook, your data set. So they're super in market, they're already motivated. And then how to access people who've already interacted with your content. Facebook gives you the ability to run campaigns in custom audiences based on behaviors, right? Based on actions they've taken on Facebook. And happy to show you that after the webinar in a call if you'd like. We can follow up on that. Anything you want to add to that, Natalie?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the last point is just leveraging those engagement audiences, as I mentioned in the funnel. So, people have interacted with if you're doing a video ad, like your video or your lead form, or even just your Facebook page, being able to engage with those people. So definitely reference, I think this will be sent out, but I think reference that side in regards to that question too.
Right on. It is now 2 minutes after the hour. Folks, I wish we could get to every single one of your questions. There's too many to answer. We greatly appreciate your engagement. Natalie, thanks so much for presenting today with me. This was a ton of
Yeah,
fun.
thank you, Dan. That was great. Had lots of fun, and thank you everyone for attending and for your questions. Like Dan said, sorry we couldn't get to all of them. We will follow up. We'll do our best to follow up, but thank you everyone for attending.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Take care.